Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build With ICF Podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring-Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build With ICF Podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt. Yeah.
Hello.
Episode 31.
I knew
I
you
knew
were
it right off the top of my head. Every episode, I always screw that up, and I have to scroll through my phone really fast to figure it out. But I know we just did the Dirty 30 for the last episode.
Yes.
We're doing episode 31 now.
Yeah. And I'm excited about this episode. So the guest we have on today, we've known for quite some time. We used to live right down the road from him. Didn't know him at that time. Met him later at a trade show and have worked with him ever since. So super excited for today.
No, it's literally been one of the guys that we said from the beginning. I think we might have plugged you, Carl. It might have actually been discussed a few times on the previous episodes. So we teased everybody that we were going to have you on. So we've got Carl Simpson. He's come on here he's Renewable Energy Northwest. I always forget the Northwest part. Renewable Energy, I always remember.
Yeah.
Renewable Energy Northwest. He is our solar guy, our radiant heat guy. He did our floors. He does all of our stuff. This guy is the dude you want to talk to about
geothermal information, everything.
All this stuff. So energy efficiency extraordinaire. So Carl, thank you for coming on today. And we like I said, we've been waiting for this episode. So thanks for making it on here. You want to give us a little bit of an intro, give us a little bit of a bio of how'd you get involved in this and how long you've been doing it, and tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, been doing it for 15 years, and one of the things that I think dovetails perfectly with ICF is energy efficiency, and so that's my approach. And what we do is we do solar electric. We also do solar thermal using evacuated tubes to heat hot water, heat a pool, heat radiant floor, heat snow melt, heat a coil in the furnace. We also do whole house fans, solar attic fans. Our radiant floor, we do heating and cooling. The cooling typically comes from the well water that runs through the floor in the summer and gives up the cold BTUs into the floor. And so we get that for free because we don't pump the water. The water's already pumped. We just give it a trip through the floor to give up the cold BTU.
I think that's probably one of the ones that people do not think about. Like everyone goes, I mean, I know we've mentioned to people, we're like, yeah, we can flip it this summer and we get cool water run through the floors, and people are like, that one blows people's mind. I think that they don't even realize that they can cool their house with their floors as well.
Yeah, we've got about 45 homes that are done with radiant floor heating and cooling.
Just so in Idaho, right?
More water you put in, the more cold it is in there. So we can't control it. We just get whatever it is. And we have one house, interestingly enough, in between Horseshoe Bend and Emmett. It's right on the south side of the river, but a very well insulated house, but it has a wraparound porch. So there's no sun gain coming through the windows. And so that house, with just the internal water consumption, keeps the house mid-70s with only having the water used internally because they're basically very limited irrigation outside.
Which that's pretty good considering, that area right now with the heat wave we have going on is getting 105 plus. So to be in mid 70s is cool. So Carl, where exactly do you do work at? Are you just in Idaho or are you in all of Northwest?
We've done installations in Oregon. We've done installations in Washington. We've done installations in Utah. We've done installation in Atlanta.
Oh, wow. That's not in the Northwest.
Yeah. But yeah, we have a dealer in Salt Lake and we have a dealer in Atlanta. And so we really focus on, just overall efficiency. That's why it works really well with ICF. Because if you build an ICF, and then if you put good insulation in the ceiling part, then it's really easy to take care of the rest of the energy needs, which works well dovetailing with what you guys already do in your build.
Yeah.
And so then it's, just takes solar thermal. We have one panel for every 500 feet, whether or not we're building a shop or we're building a house, to provide the heat. And then in the summer, we have quite a few where here in the valley, we take the heat and it goes to heat a swimming pool in the summer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Cover over it. We've got an ICF house in Cuna that not too far from where the new project is at, a little ways just right off of Cloverdale. So we're heating a pool, and that one also has a snow melt in the winter. So we use the solar thermal to keep snow melt preheated as much as the sun we can. And then it only runs on purchased energy when there's snow actually coming down. And so like we've got one at NNU, it costs them less than $50 a year to run because they're only burning natural gas when it is actually snowing.
Right.
Then the rest of the time, we're just running the preheated glycol water mix through the cement 365 days a year.
That's awesome. I remember, so I want to ask a little bit about, and I think this will be really helpful for our listeners, but when we were looking to do our house up here in McCall, we came and looked at a project that you had. It was an ICF house with an ICF pool, and they had solar and I think a geothermal well, and like they had this amazing setup in their mechanical room. So can you walk through some of the things that you did on that house, because it's super cool.
Yeah. And that's above Table Rock.
Yep. Up the hills there.
And so that one, we're heating the pool in the summer, and that one because they've got about, I think, probably 5 acres of land that they're on. And so they use a lot of water to water their pastures, water their trees, kind of orchards, water the grass in doing it. So we have a really good amount of water flow, because all of the water from the well flows through the floor first. And this house, I think, is about 5,500 square feet. It's got a daylight basement that walks out to the pool, and then the upper level. And so we're heating that with solar thermal in the winter time. And then in the summertime, we just switch it over, we have what we call a cooling valve, which is a 3-way valve on the main water line. We turn off the main water line, and then we have a T and a valve before that. We open that. That sends all of the water from the well through the floor. And then right after that middle valve is another T and a ball valve, returns from the floor. And right after that is when it goes out to the irrigation. And so we don't soften any of the irrigation water. The water softener is after going out to the sprinklers. And on that one, we have kind of 2 systems, one for the upstairs, one for the downstairs. We have heating zones for that, as you guys have in your house, on directing where the heat goes. And the cooling, we just let that go through because it has to go through all of the flow of the pipes to keep as much pressure and flow as we can. So when it gets outside, it's still running all the sprinklers and everything that's going on.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I didn't quite understand with our house when we moved in. So the first year we were in here, we moved in the wintertime, nice and warm. Everything was great. In the summertime, I'm like, it's cold in here. I don't need to switch this to summer mode and run cold water through here. We don't need additional air conditioning or whatever to cool it down here. It was already cold enough. So I didn't switch it. And then we ended up having some valve stick or whatever. And your technician came up and he's like, yeah, you got to switch that. We can't leave it off.
He's like, do you guys switch it? We're like, well, we've never switched it for like years. We've never, he's like, you're not switching on your summer? And we're like, no, we never need it. It's an ICF house. It's always cool. And he's like, you need to turn those on.
Right. But that's the beauty of ICF home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that it's going to keep it between kind of 60-80.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we didn't turn it on, our house was like, I want to say, because we open the windows at night, because it does still, most of the time it cools down at night. So we'll open the windows and it gets down to like below 60 in here at night at times. And with turning it to summer, it just stays 62 in here all the time. Doesn't matter if we open the door or the windows at night or whatever, it just stays 62 in here. So it actually has helped regulate the temperature a little bit more. 62 is cold though. We look like crazy people when the UPS man comes and we're working in the office all day and we answer the door in hoodies and sweatpants and he's out there sweating in shorts.
Yeah, they always look at us. We have to explain to them what our system is here, but
it's free.
Yeah. Doesn't
cost us a dime. No, and it's back to that house, like just impressive. Like, I mean, I don't know how many people really nerd out on it, but like I know at least 3 of us here that look at that and go, that is cool. Like, I mean, we walked into that mechanical room in the basement there and it was just awesome. Like the pipes, I think ours is awesome. And it's, a 10th of what that one was. It was just really, really impressive. But it also was very enlightening to look at it and realize that's why you hire a professional to do this very well, that knows their stuff, because it's a very confusing looking thing. It may be simple to Carl, but it's something that people don't want to tackle, on their own. It's something that you need to find a good professional that can do it, because it is just super impressive. I mean, all the valves and pipes and different things that are being directed. You guys are directing some crazy traffic with that, with those.
Right. One thing we do is we come twice a year, one in the fall to switch it back to heat, and one in the spring, and we do that. And then so when we're doing that, then we can also, which I think my guys just did for your house, is flush the tankless. And so we just, we don't charge to come do that. We do charge to flush the tankless, but the rest of it, we just do that as part of the system.
Well, you guys are so awesome about like educating people about it too. Like, I mean, you guys always sit and talk to us about like explain what's going on. I mean, I think that's what's really, really great. One of the really great things about you guys is, you guys are always educating. You do a great job marking everything and making it pretty simple, like, in summer, winter on the valves and different things. I mean, you guys make it pretty foolproof that way. And like I said, your guys' techs come out and they're awesome. Danny was here yesterday and just love the fact that they go through everything with us and make everything understandable, but super cool.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say one of the things that a lot of people, when they see our system, because there are other systems out there. I have seen the DIY jobs that people do, and their houses, like our house is 3,200 square feet. And then we have the garage that also has it in there. And it's all run off that one Navion tankless system. Yeah. I've seen DIY ones, the house is half of our size, and they've got 200-gallon water heaters, which it can't be as efficient as the tankless system. Yeah. But people don't believe that we run our whole heating system, all of our hot water, everything off of that, and we never run out of hot water. So that's a cool part.
Carl, what does make the difference between when you guys use like a boiler system versus just like what we have with the Navion tankless heater? What determines which route you're going?
And great question. We do boilers, but boilers can only run at 30 PSI. And so if it's a closed loop, that's okay. Like on a snow melt, the boiler's a good solution because we're not doing anything else with it. But if we put a boiler in like at your house, then we can't have the cold water flow through the system because it's 60, 65. Because Navion makes good boilers. They also make good tanklesses. And so most of the time we go ahead and use the tanklesses, even for large shops that we do. But it's because then we can also, even in the large shops, we can flow water through in the summer. Like we've got one over in Parma that's 8,600 square feet. It's at a gravel yard. Well, they fill up their water truck 3 times a day in the summer to keep the dust down. That water all flows through the floor in the shop before it fills up the truck. So then it keeps the inside of their shop reasonably 70s, low 80s, even in, 106-degree weather, and again, for free.
Yeah, this is crazy.
I imagine you
already ran.
I imagine you're just like we are with ICF and with what you do. And you go, when you hear this stuff, you just think, how can anyone not use it? Like, I mean, why would you not? It's crazy. Like you hear with the efficiency of this stuff and it's just like, it's just so nuts that it's, we think that about ICF. We're like, why would you ever build a house that's not ICF?
Right.
And you're sitting here what you're telling us, like, why would you run it that way? It's just amazing to me how awesome it is.
Well, with ICF, that's the most energy way to build a house.
Yeah.
Well, so you're starting off with a great solution. Then this complements it. Let's do the radiant floor heating and cooling. Then the beauty of it, which answers one of Heather's questions a little bit ago about like with solar electric, we've got one down in by the Nampa airport, about the same size as you guys' house. So we've got radiant floor in the garage, and then also in the house that's about 3,500 square feet. We did radiant floor cooling. We have the well water all running through that. They only had to put 16 solar panels on, and they're net zero. So their electric bill was $5.20 a month.
Wow.
Their whole energy in their house, and this includes $60 a month of Idaho Power net metering, was less than $200 a year. But again, that's ICF.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're putting the radiant, and the renewable energy project is the ground prep, the insulation, the AMVIC insulation, the tubing, the concrete, the solar, the boiler, the geothermal cooling well, because it is a geothermal cooling well. All of that is a renewable energy project. So you get a 30% tax credit on all of those items. And if you need any cooling besides that, like if you have a 2-story one, then you probably need some cooling in that second story because heat rises.
Right.
We can put some radiant in the floor or under the floor, but it's better to probably just put a ductless, head up there.
Well,
but so it's very energy efficient in total if you start with the ICF and then do this. Then it's kind of, why would you build any other type of home?
Right.
Or any type of structure, period. I mean, I know we're doing a 20,000 square foot facility in Cuna that you're helping us with. And the renewable part of it, excuse me, the renewable part was, I mean, you helped with all that paperwork. I don't think we really filled out a whole lot. We gave you the information that you needed and then you filled it out. Can you talk a little bit about that and the different tax incentives and whether or not they're being renewed again this year or how long they're in effect?
So there's residential, you get a 30% tax credit of the total renewable energy project. And then you get in Idaho a $20,000 deduction off your income over a period of 4 years. That's worth about $1,200 is what the 30%, it's worth quite a bit. That's on residential, and it differs by state. For businesses, if you're rural, which is a project we're working on, which rural is anything outside of Boise city limits, Eagle city limits, Meridian, Nampa, Caldwell, all the rest of Idaho is rural. And so if you have a business, like if you guys had a shop on your site or another shop somewhere, and it was in a rural area that would qualify, then you get into, and they award these REAP grants, which we're in process of they're reviewing the grants right now. that you can get up to 50% of the renewable energy project, which again is the ground prep, the AMVIC insulation, the tubing, the concrete, the geothermal well, the solar thermal, so it's a lot of costs of the build for that. And you can use solar thermal. One of the interesting things, they used to let us do PV and solar thermal together on one project. Now we have to break it up into two projects. So we've got the solar thermal first, because that's going to be the biggest interactive solution for it. And then later in 6 months, we can put solar PV on it in another grant to be able to do that. But it ends up being a huge component of what the costs are. And I think on the project, just off the top of my head, I think the project cost is like 300 and the REAP grant is 150.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that
then
part
you
of
get
it.
the 30% tax credit, which is 90. Then you get to depreciate all the renewable energy, which the cash value of that is 27. So you get 107% of that 300.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, those are the things I think people just don't know, and I mean, that's why we wanted to have you on this podcast, because I mean, we've got a lot of listeners who are, they're coming on here to try to, figure out the best way to build an ICF house. They wouldn't be listening to this podcast if they were not looking for a better way to build a home, period. So it's great for them to get this information, because it's something that I just don't think people, it's an elephant and it's too big to eat, and they don't realize that they've got guys like you and your company out there to help them through this, because if you can navigate this, I mean, it's just, again, no brainer. And I think our listeners are of that mindset. So I don't think it's as hard to convince them, but it's very, very impressive as far as what you can do when we really look at it. It's not, it's kind of like when people look and they go, oh, well, ICF's so much more expensive. We're like, well, you're probably not looking at the numbers correctly, right? I mean, and you got to look at like what you're, I mean, is it a spec house that you're just putting on the market to sell versus are you going to live it? Are you going to build and hold it and rent it? Are you going to, what are you doing with it? Because there's so many things that add value to it above and beyond just, the day one construction cost. Because you look at day two, you start cash flowing when you're working with, spending a little bit of money on this stuff and getting it done correctly. Then by day two you are, and then day 8,000, you're still, cash flowing on this. So I think it's just important for people to understand that.
Yeah, I look at the utility bills on this house compared to we have a 1,300 square foot townhouse in Boise, and the utility bill here is a fraction of what it is on the little townhouse in Boise.
Yeah, it's just getting it set up right. But so I do want to get into, we talked about the incentives and stuff. I think if you're talking to, like I said, most of our listeners are new, coming in, interested in ICF, looking at building their own place or getting into the business. What is the process? What do you suggest people do if they're sitting here listening right now? They got a set of plans, they're getting ready to build an ICF house, and they hear this and they go, oh, I love what he's saying, I want to do that. What's the beginning steps? What's the process they should look into when they're just getting started on a house to do something with you or the way you're talking about?
Yeah, what I encourage people to do is to email me a set of their plans, and then I can work up a quote from doing radiant floor heating and cooling. I can also work up a quote for a forced air system if they want to go that, just so they can see the mechanics of this. And then I can actually work into there if you want to go solar electric, so your energy bills are net zero in essence. Then what would that take? Because it would, and this is why I really love working with ICF homes, is because it's energy efficient. Then we put in the radiant floor heating and cooling, that's energy efficient. Then we put in, like whole house fans to bring in the cold air at McCall. So you don't have to, worry about cooling it. And so everything is energy efficient, which means then we have just not very many solar electric panels we need to put on, which also means we don't need to put very many batteries on to be able to take care of it. And so the whole solution is you can get and to me, I think it's still cost effective. What I would say is whether or not you're doing it to sell the house or rent the house or anything, this is still the right way to build whatever house you're going to build.
Agreed.
Whether or not it's a vacation home, a live-in home, a spec home, because of what it's going to mean cost-wise to live there. And it's going to come after all the incentives, like the house in Nampa I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Their net cost after the incentives of all the project I talked about was $18,000. That's what an HVAC would have cost.
Oh,
right.
But HVAC is typically more than that now these days.
And this was a few years
ago,
but it was literally, so it paid for itself year one.
Right. And it's
$200 a year.
Yeah.
And Carl, if our listeners, because we have listeners all over the country, and where did you say we got our first listeners in?
And we have shout out to our listeners in New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah.
We have listeners in New Zealand, and they say they listen to all of them. I'm hoping you're listening. We actually got reached out from New Zealand. I'm like, wow, we can see kind of the where the downloads come from and stuff a little bit when I go dig into it. And it's kind of funny. We've had stuff in Europe and stuff, but it was literally also like the other night we got reached out from New Zealand. So hi, everybody in New Zealand.
Anyway, so back to my question, but like, let's say that you're not going to go to New Zealand to install a system like this, or maybe, you're not going to Tennessee or Kentucky or whatever. Is there like a network of other businesses like you that that you can help us refer people to?
Typically there's not typically like we're the only one in Idaho that does what we do. And so, and even the solar thermal, the evacuated tube system, we're registered nationally with that system. And we're actually the lowest cost per BTU system in the United States because we just use water. Everybody else uses glycol and then a heat exchanger. So it's not very efficient. But what I do on places where it makes more sense is I will work with a plumber and basically teach him how to do what we do, and even fly them in and show them, because we've got lots of projects going on. So have him help a day or two with what we're doing, but also he can see with pictures or with videos or in person, like you guys did on that house we went and toured. Here's what it is, and take pictures, because I can get the panels to them. I can get the controllers. I can show them how to do it. And so we can do it, in New Zealand.
Oh.
Well, even, yeah, I mean, I
go to New Zealand.
I would imagine which by the way, I did look it up. It's Nicole. Hi, Nicole. That's who reached out to me. I had to look on my DMs, but the super, super stoked to have our people over there. But I imagine just similar to what I do is consulting. Like, I mean, I'll consult anywhere. Like, I mean, and I would imagine people can reach out to you and we'll get all your contact information on the show notes as well at the end of this. But I imagine they could reach out to you and you can consult from anywhere, really, if they need to have you come in and do that or work with somebody locally or train somebody locally. Like, we do that all the time. Last week I was up in Northern Washington. We were up there doing a consultation with a group. So, I mean, that's what we do as well. People can hire me to go in and they've got their own people, their own install crews, but I come and kind of oversee it and make sure they're doing the things right. We help them with the ordering of the ICF and all that. So imagine that'd be similar thing you can do, right, Carl?
Yes. Yeah. And I think, as you guys do, probably, I'm willing to share how to do that, but it's very important that they're humble, willing to learn, but make sure you do it this way.
Correctly. Yes.
We've had 15 years of learning to be able to get it figured out to do it like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do. I mean, and that's the reason for this podcast, is making sure that people know how to do things correctly and well. We've complained about it on previous episodes. I've not made it a secret that I'm annoyed sometimes with some of the ICF guys out there that put up junk and then it bleeds over to all of us and they go, oh yeah, I saw an ICF and it fell down or it was crooked or it was this or that, and things happen. But then there's some guys out there that are just continuously putting out bad product and doing things. So it's important to work with somebody that knows what they're doing and can get same thing with your systems and everything you're doing. So
because the systems are super simple, but they are extremely technical when you guys put them in. So like, I remember meeting and like having our floor plan out and drawing out to run what is it? Is the piping is Uponor? Is that what it's called?
Yes. Heat packs. Uponor,
yeah. Okay. So like laying out how we were going to do it, because Trevor and I actually, installed our, on top of we used the Ampex panels when we did this house. And I know a lot of the ICF companies have a panel that they use as well. But we use that. And then, we laid out our tubing based on what you had told us to do. But we did not hook up any of the stuff. We just left all the Uponor lines
Carl said, do not touch anything. I'll let you touch tubing. Do not touch anything metal. Do not touch anything electric. Don't touch anything power. Don't just tubing. That's all he approved us for.
Yes. But no, super
smart move.
Yeah. But that part was simple, but it was extremely technical. So I so appreciate working with you, and we refer you out to so many clients within the drafting company just because we're trying to plan for it for them and look at where can we put remote manifolds for zoning and what do we need, and making sure that we're putting everything in there that you need so that it makes the process simple.
Well, and back to the getting in early when in the planning process of this, the smarter, the earlier you can get in, the better. We can come in and Carl can obviously retrofit things in for you, but the better, if you're drawing your plans, work with Carl on this so that he can say, hey, I need a spot to put these manifolds. I need a spot to put the remote manifold. Work with it during the design. And that's something that we do with Innovative Draft and Design. And that's why we work closely with Carl on that stuff, is so we can design a closet if we need to, that's going to hold that stuff. We can put a chase if we need to, so it is important to get it involved early in the process and not wait too long to do that. But
yeah. So we have main manifolds that send all the supply returns to the remote manifolds. And typically, if we can, we want to have that in a wall.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to make sure that we're measuring, very, very accurate, because when we're pouring the concrete,
they got to be there.
It's going to be.
Yep.
In doing that. And then, and what we like to do is actually have a 2x6 wall, just maybe on that closet. Then we just have an access panel, but you don't even see it.
Plenty of room,
that it's in there. And then that is one zone that has a thermostat. And so we put the Amvec down and then we paint the zones. And so as we're putting the tubing down, or you guys putting the tubing down, what is for that specific zone,
right,
on heating? And then where are we going to the manifold? Because like on the 3,500 foot, just so I can do the math, that's 40,250 feet of pipe. You don't want to have all of that coming back to one spot.
Yeah.
Because that's the main manifold couldn't handle all that, so we need to have remote manifolds in the house,
right?
To be able to, or in the shop. So we do on a lot of shops, and anything in snow country, like up in McCall and Yellow Pine, Donnelly, Cascade, those we mount the panels on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
We also mount them on for shops, so it's very efficient in the winter collecting the energy, and no snow gets on it.
Yeah.
But it's very inefficient, interestingly enough, in the summer, because the sun's up at 60 degrees in the summer. And so one of the interesting things, I wish I was smart enough to figure this out before we just learned this, is that we don't have to cover the panels up in McCall and Donnelly and Yellow Pine, because they're so inefficient in the summer that it's just taking care of the hot water in the summer. And then in the winter, when it's at 30 degrees, then you're getting all of the energy from the sun. And then it's also because they're round vacuum tubes, the radiation bounces off of the snow or bounces off of the wall to be able to actually collect 360 degrees on the tube. So that's one of the reasons we're able to get, the heat for the winter.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, all right, Carl, well, we're going to move into our 3 questions that we ask every one of our guests. And so the first one, can you tell us about a memorable experience that you've had since you got started with your company?
One of my memorable, most learning experiences up at Yellow Pine. It's an hour and a half away from any cell phone.
Yeah.
And so going up there, and this was early, probably 2013, 2014. And, so we're putting them on there. And so we're putting in a taco zone controller to I think there are 3 or 4 zones in the house where we're doing that. And we couldn't get it to work. So I'd try something, but I didn't have any technical person I could call. So I'd try it. Then I'd drive an hour and a half down to Cascade, call them. And then I'd drive back up for an hour and a half back there and then try the fix that they gave me. Anyway, we got her up and running, but that was a challenge of working remote.
We do, yeah. We talk about a lot of our jobs are remote and up the mountain, and boy, there's a lot of challenges that you don't think about when you're used to building close to town.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and now thank God for it's a plug, but it works. We've got 4 units now, the Starlink. We even have a unit for the truck now because of their new little portable one. And so when we're on our remote job sites that there's no cell phone coverage, if we have a clear view of the sky, we can get Wi-Fi and then we can do Wi-Fi calls. So that has helped us and helped our crews out immensely. But,
Yeah, I'm writing that down.
Yeah, they make one now that literally the Starlink will fit into a computer bag. And you can just take it with you. It's pretty slick.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, all right, next question, and then we'll let Trevor ask the third one. But we've already covered this a ton for the last 37 minutes. But why should people work with you, Carl?
I'm very open, very common sense approach of just trying to let's figure out what makes sense. I don't have any door knockers. I don't try to sell people stuff that won't work. I'll tell you, this is, and I, got lots of references of, the 45 homes we've done. We've done about 25 shops that we've done a 15,000 square foot one over in Kuna. And so we've got a lot of knowledge that is, got us to this point.
Wow.
Well, yeah.
And we can vouch for that.
Yes.
And if he doesn't, if you don't believe him, call us and we'll we'll tell you how great Carl is.
Yeah. We appreciate working with you and just the knowledge that you have and being able to go over, like, I'll talk about the big project that we have, the 20,000 square foot project coming up in Kuna. We sat down with the plans before we finalized them and we're like, okay, what are we not planning for? What's new out there? What are you recommending? And it with just a few minor changes on the plans, we can accommodate all of that stuff. And then, right. Helping us through the REAP grants and all the incentive programs. Just, that part right there is, I think, super important for people because it can be really confusing to have to figure all that out, and you already have all of that.
Yeah, there's no way. People are not going to be able to jam that much. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's easy to figure out the grants.
Yeah.
So our last question, what is there in the industry there? What are you excited about in the future? Is there anything coming up? Is there new technology that you guys are kind of seeing start to pop up? But maybe hasn't even fully made it into the industry yet, but you're excited about it? Or is there something that is new that you guys are using that you're real excited about?
Well, the distressing part, and then I'll get to the solution part, but the distressing part is Idaho Power changing their net metering program, where you actually need to generate 2 kilowatts for one of their kilowatts. So that kind of takes a lot of the payback in solar electric. But to combat that, we can actually put in an interactive battery. And so we've done one here in Star that we put in the solar panels that we thought it would take to be able to power the house and the EV car. But then we also put in a 10 kW battery, but we've got it set and we take it down every day down to 50% load, and you can go lower than that. You can take it down to 30%. And Idaho Power also, they've changed, which I think we're all going to be doing this next year, is that during the prime time in the summer, starting June 1 till August 31st, it's 24.5 cents a kilowatt, the price for that. That's triple what it was 3 years ago and double what it is now. Right now, everybody that puts solar in they have that net metering by time, and they're asking people if they want to participate. But I suspect next year they're going to everybody's going to pay that. But with this battery, we charge it up in the morning with the solar electric. And then once the battery's charged up, we're sending energy to Idaho Power, but we're taking care of all the load of the house from like 3 to 6. Then the battery takes from 6 to 11 running off of that. So we're not buying hardly any of Idaho Power that is triple what the cost is. So the very first bill we got from that, they had zero cost from Idaho Power for nothing, not even the net metering fee, because we paid that. Plus we had another $40 a month besides that credit because of how we're doing it with this interactive battery. So that's where I'm really excited about what we can do with this chess match with Idaho Power.
I like it. I like how you have a problem and you have a solution. And it's that anyone that knows, I don't think I've mentioned on this podcast, but on the other podcast, but I have a tattoo on my arm that says "Be the solution." That was something my grandpa always taught us, like be the solution, don't be the problem. I love that you have a solution. Here's a problem, and now you have a solution. So be the solution. That's awesome. So, well, that was as awesome as I was hoping it was going to be. So, Carl, thank you so much for being on this episode. I imagine we may have a follow-up episode coming because I'm sure that I can tell we're going to have questions coming. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be getting a lot of people that are going to prompt the wheels turning in their head on listening to this episode. So that's great. What is the best way for them to get hold of you? And I will put it in the show notes, but what's your email address, Carl? And how would you like to get?
My email address is Carl, CARL, at Renewable Energy NWLLC.com.
Perfect. And I will put that in the show notes. So if everybody wants to click on that, they can go and get it there. But definitely reach out to Carl. I mean, like I said, we lean on him heavy. He's a very knowledgeable person in this. And I mean, if you're, like I said, if you're listening to this podcast, you're already trying to build a better house. And this is just more, efficient way to do it.
It dovetails in very good. I mean, why would you not build a house out of ICF?
I don't know. I scratch my head all the time. I don't know why we're not 100% of the industry, but
we're working on it.
We'll take the 10% right now. And a little plug, I do want to mention something that I did yesterday. Actually, the National Association of Home Builders, the NAHB, just is going to be launching a online training program on ICF. So I just recorded that yesterday. Excuse me, it's about a 45-minute class that's going on to their website at nahb.org. So if you are a NAHB member, you're going to be able to go on to the construction courses that they have set up on there. If you go under the education tab, and as of, I believe they're launching it on August 6th, there'll be an ICF basics course that I taught yesterday and was recorded yesterday. So super cool that's happening. And I think we're seeing more and more places going towards energy efficiency and seeing that we do need to build things better. We do need to heat and cool our houses better and more efficiently. So I think that, Carl, I give you tons of credit for making the world a better place with the heating and cooling of these homes better. So we couldn't do it without you. That's for sure. And so we really do appreciate you and appreciate you taking the time to come on the show.
And then, as always,
hope, the people in California where the fire is burning rebuild with ICF.
Yeah, we do. We've been very involved in some of those in resiliency, and I discussed that a little bit in the class on the NHB class. And anybody listening down there, it's. I really hope everybody's safe. Everybody, survive. Their home survived that. But coming back up for some of those houses that need to be rebuilt. We did a lot of them in Paradise, California, and have done a lot around California, and so that'd be good. But if anyone's wanting to get hold of us, please reach out to us as usual. info@buildwithicf.com. All of our socials are buildwithicf.com on the socials. Everybody's been doing a great job of reaching out to us on Instagram has been super popular.
Tell us where you're reaching out from too. I love that.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, like I said, it really does. And I try to respond to everybody, and I apologize if I miss someone here and there, because we have been getting a lot of messages, but I really do mean it when I tell people, like, we are doing this because we love it, and we're doing it so that people get something out of it. And when we get those comments from listeners saying that they listen to it and love it and they appreciate it, it really is what fuels us to do this. And so I want to thank each and every one of our listeners, not even just the ones reaching out, especially the ones reaching out to us and letting us know, but definitely to all of our listeners. It's been why we do this thing, is because of that. And two, we mentioned it last time. I had a few people respond. If you've got people in certain areas, or you're an installer in certain areas, or you're in the business, if you're, even like I said, if you're doing stuff like what Carl's doing with solar and different things, reach out to us and send us your contact info. I don't know how we're going to do it yet, but I do want to maybe create some sort of list connected to the podcast of people that we can refer to on things all over the world at this point now. So if we can, if you have that information, please send it to us, and we will definitely post it up and do something with it.
Yeah, sounds great.
Anything you got here?
No, I'm ready to go finish getting ready. We got a rafting trip to get to, so
we're going on getting out in nature. We are going to be turning off the cell phones and computers for a matter of like 4.5 days. So this is going to be, we'll see if we have the shakes or anything by the time we're done, but we will get this podcast uploaded, and it will come out on time as usual. And we'll be back on the air here next week. But super excited to get out there and do a little nature, nature for us.
Thank you again, Carl. We really do appreciate it. And then have a great,
thanks guys.
Have a great week, everybody.